the fact that SB107 is now on the governor's desk is deeply concerning. I mean, this is something that every parent, not just in California, but every parent in the country should be sounding the alarm about this. I mean, this essentially is the kidnap your kids and let them be trans in California bill.
Right.
That's how every parent around the country should look at this.
Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson, and we've got a legislative update for you. To help us with that, we've got the president of the California Family Council with us, Jonathan Keller. Jonathan, always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Pastor Tim, great to be with you as always. It's certainly been an eventful few weeks.
Yeah, last time we were talking together, there was a lot going on, but so much has happened since then. The legislative sessions have been taking place. Talk to us, if you would, about some of the major bills that conservatives are going to be concerned about.
Yeah, well, a lot of times when we talk about this, I kind of like to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start with one little bit of good news, and that is actually a bill that was dealing with vaccines, and it was really actually beyond vaccines. It was a parental rights bill. That bill actually died. It died in the Assembly. It was SB 866, and that was from Senator Scott Wiener out of San Francisco. I know many of your viewers, listeners are familiar with Senator Wiener. He has been at the forefront of some of the worst issues we've been dealing with over the last several years. And this year was no exception. There were some really just truly heinous bills. And this particular one, it's actually the second major defeat for Senator Wiener just in the last month. One of them was something dealing with safe injection sites. Some of your listeners might remember a couple weeks ago, kind of shockingly, Gavin Newsom actually vetoed a bill that would have authorized these free drug clinics. You could bring your own drugs in. You could use them kind of consequence-free. There would be no threats from law enforcement. You would actually have state-funded medical personnel there. So in case you overdose, they can be there with some Narcan to save your life. And look, I think we talked about that before. It's good to have a way to save people's lives, and we obviously want to do what we can to mitigate drug usage, but this bill was horrible, and it would have, I think, increased drug usage. It would have lowered the consequences, and shockingly, Governor Newsom actually vetoed that bill. Well, now we're seeing, again, this time it wasn't Governor Newsom, but it was actually Democrats in the Assembly refused to pass SB 866. When this bill initially passed in the Senate, this was kind of at the height of all the COVID craziness. And Wiener was basically saying, look, we need to start allowing young people to get vaccinations themselves. The essential implication here was that parents did not want their children to get vaccinated for whatever reason, whatever host of reasons. And Scott Wiener said we should be allowing kids to go around their parents' back and to vaccinate themselves against their parents' wishes and without their parents' consent or knowledge. Initially, Tim, this bill was going down to as young as 12 years old. We're not talking about a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old who's driving and decides they want to go to a vaccine site by themselves. They want to set up the appointment and go get vaccinated. We were talking about allowing schools to vaccinate children on campus during school hours and for parents never to hear about it and to never be consulted. That's what would have happened for children as young as 12 if this bill had passed. Well, the first sign of trouble was that it passed the Senate by only a single vote. And then when it made its way over to the Assembly, it immediately faced some really stiff trouble. In fact, it made its way through some of the initial hearings only because Senator Wiener amended it to be, instead of 12 years old, up to 15 years old. But even so, when it came down to the wire in the last few weeks of session, Senator Wiener kept lobbying and trying to find enough votes to get this passed on the floor. And he was not able to even get the 41 votes he needed to bring this to the floor and get it passed. And for everybody watching at home, I just want to give you a big picture about why this is significant. This was one of those bills that really kind of crossed a lot of tripwires. Number one, obviously, it dealt with the vaccine issue, which by itself is a big deal. Not just COVID vaccines, but any sort of vaccines, whether it's the HPV vaccine or anything else. But the bigger issue, again, was not just that it was a vaccination issue, but that it was a parents' rights issue. So you had a lot of people that even normally are not vaccine skeptics. They're not concerned to the same degree as others about the COVID shot. But they said, look, I don't want my kids to be taken out of school. I don't want them to receive these against my wishes. You had a lot of homeschool families even that said this is the first foot in the door to begin medical treatment on children against and above their parents' wishes.
Right.
So it really brought a lot of people to the fight that have not been fighting on this in other cases.
Yeah, and you know as well as I do that is one of the things that's being pushed in the state of California, Orange County in particular. I've talked to Orange board members there that are saying that they're trying to put wellness centers on campuses where the kids can receive these type of medical services. Not just that, but even the transgender therapies and stuff like that on campus. No parents' knowledge, no consent, and this is just more of what we're seeing across the nation, not just here in California. And this is the way we saw Governor Youngkin. We saw that election. And when we saw that going on in Virginia, we knew that this coming November here in California, it is the issue of parental rights. It's going to be a huge catalyst for a lot of people getting elected that are running on that issue of parental rights. Huge, massive implications for how things are going to move forward. That's a huge plus. The SB 866 getting buried right now. My guess is, like all these other bills, we're going to see it make its way around again at some point in some other fashion. So that's the good. You said you have the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so that's the good. And just real quick, one bow on that. There are 60 Democrats in the state assembly, and this meant that not even 41 of those 60 Democrats would be willing to vote for it. So it was a huge victory. Yeah. The problem is that on so many other bills this year, they were willing to completely disregard parental rights, completely disregard the safety of children. One of those was SB107. This was this so-called trans refuge bill or trans safe haven bill. Basically, after Florida and Texas had said, we believe that these irreversible mutilating surgeries and drug injections are dangerous for children. After that, the state of California, through Senator Weiner, said, we want to create a safe zone for parents to bring their kids to the state of California. If you live in Texas, if you live in Florida, or anywhere else in the country, come to California and we will not prosecute you. We will not even respond to a lawful subpoena from those other states if they're concerned. We won't share that your child is being given transgender treatments here in the state of California. And the worst thing about this, Tim, is that it is not just dealing with the case where two parents come to the state and they want their kids to be treated with transgender health care. Potentially, this says that if there's a custody dispute, if you have one parent who says, I think my child is trans, the other parent says, no, they're not, they're confused. Maybe they have all sorts of other emotional and mental trauma and issues. If the parents are, even in the case of a custody dispute, even if maybe the state of Texas, for example, awarded custody to a mother and said, we want you to be able to take care of this child and get them the help they need, the other parent in this case could take the child out of state to California, and the state of California will ignore the custody determination from the state of Texas if the family is in the state for the purpose of trans affirming healthcare. And beyond the fact that it gets into custody disputes, even worse than that, there's even a loophole potentially, Tim, where parents who have said no to their children for these mutilating surgeries and destructive chemical injections, if the child themselves makes it to the state of California, maybe they're visiting an aunt, maybe they're visiting a cousin, maybe they're just here on a school field trip. If they go to a trans health center and they say, I'm here because I need to get trans affirming health care, I'm not able to get it in my home state, this bill could very likely authorize the state of California to take emergency custody of that child, put them into California's foster care system, and deprive parents in these other states from knowing what's going on with their children and even being able to get custody back. They could have to go through a lengthy court process just to get custody back of their own children. So, I mean, this is as good as it is that SB 866 passed, or was defeated, excuse me. The fact that SB 107 is now on the governor's desk is deeply concerning. I mean, this is something that every parent, not just in California, but every parent in the country should be sounding the alarm about this. I mean, this essentially is the kidnap your kids and let them be trans in California bill.
Right.
That's how every parent around the country should look at this.
Right. Especially as we hear word that Governor Newsom wants to run for president at some point. This to me seems like a bill. I wonder what he's going to do with this now that this is on his desk, because this is going to alienate him from some of those states where he'll need votes in those states. What's going to happen? Is he going to sign this bill that basically says, I don't care what your state says, I'm going to do what I want? Because I don't think that'll be good for him in his bid for the presidency. What do you think he's going to do with this?
No. Well, I think that's the really tricky thing, Tim, is that he absolutely wants to do what his donors and what his base says. And on the one hand, you do have the whole issue with the drug injection sites, where I think he did not want there to be a repeat of the 1988 presidential election, where Governor Dukakis from Massachusetts, he basically was very he was in very bad shape because he had paroled some convicted criminals, and one of those criminals went out and killed somebody while they were on parole. I think that's what he was worried about there, the crime situation. The tricky thing is with this bill, because he is so 100% in on the transgender issue, the things that he has said about Governor DeSantis, about Governor Abbott in Texas, about parents who are concerned about their own children, I really do worry that he could just say, to borrow a phrase, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, and just say, I would rather try to double down on this and force the issue than rely on trying to take a middle way. And I think that if that happens, you're going to very quickly, to be honest, you're going to see parents wondering if it is safe for them to stay in California with their children. You're going to see families around the country saying, is it safe for me to send my child to California for a school field trip or to visit family members? There's a lot of danger that could happen because of this. And I think that Governor Newsom, well, as you said, Tim, it's absolutely positive that I think he is weighing his options carefully because of how it could impact his future presidential aspirations.
Right.
But the left is nationally, they're going so crazy on this. I could absolutely see him signing this bill.
Yeah. So how much longer do we have? What are we anticipating time frame?
Well, the bill will be finally decided by September 30th. The way it works in California is if Governor Newsom does nothing, this bill will become law automatically without his signature. He either has to affirmatively veto it or he has to sign it into law. And that deadline is by September 30th. But if we don't hear anything, it will automatically become law next year after that September 30th deadline. So I encourage you now, go to our website. We have more information at californiafamily.org. And of course, you can go and contact Governor Newsom. Just go to his website and you can call, you can send emails, you can send postcards, whatever it is. But also just let your friends and family know about how bad this is. Right. Tim, there's a ton of other bills that I know we can talk about. We'll probably have to talk about them on a future show just because of time. But it's definitely a crazy session now that the legislature is done.
Right. Well, Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. For all the viewers right now, I want to make sure go to their website, the California, say the website one more time.
Sure. Yeah, it's very simple. Just californiafamily.org,
Okay.
californiafamily.org. And then, of course, if you want to find us on social media, we're very active: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Just search California Family Council on any of those platforms, and you'll find us there.
Yeah, a great resource for the conservatives here in California. Jonathan, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.